So, good morning everyone. So, this day we will talk about carbohydrates metabolism, or simply what happens if you try to eat rice or chocolate. Now, rice is actually a good example of a polysaccharide molecule, which is a polysaccharide of starch, particularly glucose. Now, what if you try to ingest that? What happened? Now, if you try to ingest rice, it will be further be broken into small pieces by means of your teeth. And so therefore, with that, with the help of enzyme, thiolin, or sometimes known as salivary amylase, salivary amylase will aid into the first carbohydrates metabolism. So therefore, meaning that the first carbohydrates metabolism occurs into our mouth, acted upon by this enzyme thiolin or salivary amylase. Because the polysaccharide will be converted into a disaccharide by means of this enzyme thiolin. So can you give us example of, sir, can you give us example of a disaccharide? Examples are the following. We do have maltose. We do have sucrose. We also have lactose. So these are examples of a disaccharide. So to cut the story short, first carbohydrates will occur into our mouth. Now it goes into the pharynx and it goes down into the stomach. Now we should always take note that enzyme requires a certain environment in order for them to function. Now we have enzyme that can work in acidic place. We also have enzyme that can work in basic or alkaline environment. Now, like for example, this thiolin, the thiolin actually requires a slightly alkaline environment. It requires a slightly alkaline environment. Now, what happens if it goes now into the stomach? Since the stomach is acidic by nature, because the pH of the stomach is 1 to 3. So what happened? The enzyme right now acting upon the carbohydrates metabolism into the mouth, if it goes into the stomach, will be inactivated. Or they will sleep. If they are inactivated or they will sleep, those enzymes are known to be cymogen enzyme. Those are sleeping enzymes. So therefore, they will not function. They will not work because the environment is not conducive for them to work. So therefore, there is no carbohydrates metabolism into the stomach. It is simply because of the acidity of the stomach. After the stomach, it goes now into the small intestine. Since the pH of the small intestine is slightly alkaline, and the requirements for the enzyme in carbohydrates metabolism is slightly alkaline, into the small intestine there is continuation of carbohydrates metabolism, wherein since there is continuation of carbohydrates metabolism, this disaccharide or the disaccharide sugar will further be converted into a monosaccharide. Okay? A 2 containing sugar will further be converted into a 1 containing sugar. Okay, like for example, let's give an example. Examples, sucrose. The sucrose will further be converted into a monosaccharide. Maltose will also be converted into a 2 monosaccharide, and lactose will be converted into a 2 monosaccharide. Now, in order for us to easily memorize the different disaccharides here, always remember CGF, may gustong ligawang guwapong guy. Si GF, may gustong ligawang guwapong guy. Because sucrose is actually a combination of glucose plus fructose. This maltose is a combination of 2 glucose. And lactose is actually a combination of glucose plus galactose. Always remember, si GF may gustong ligawang guwapong guy for us to memorize the disaccharide converting into a monosaccharide. Now, like what I have said, into the small intestine, there is continuation of carbohydrates metabolism, wherein the disaccharide will now be converted into monosaccharide. Now, if this sucrose, maltose, and lactose will be converted into monosaccharide. Now, if they are already converted into a monosaccharide, if the disaccharide is already converted into monosaccharide, they are now readily be available to be absorbed by the gut of the intestine, going right now into the circulation or going to the blood system, okay, into the circulation. Now, if this monosaccharide will be absorbed by the gut of the intestine going to the circulation, therefore, there will be a significant level of glucose into the circulation. And that significant level of glucose into the circulation is termed as hyperglycemia. Okay? It will term as hyperglycemia. This hyperglycemia right now will trigger the brain, particularly the hypothalamus, to what? To control the pancreas to secrete insulin. I repeat, the significant level of glucose into the circulation, which is termed as hyperglycemia, will trigger the brain, particularly the hypothalamus, to control the pancreas to secrete the insulin. Why? Because insulin will serve as a key in order for this glucose into the circulation to be absorbed inside the cell. Okay, I'll repeat. The insulin will serve as a key in order for these glucose molecules into the circulation to be absorbed inside the cell. Now, if the pancreas already secrete insulin, okay, if there is insulin into the glucose, so therefore the glucose right now can now enter inside the cell because there is already a key to open the cell because there is secretion of insulin. Now, the glucose right now inside the cell will further undergo biological process like Krebs cycle for it to be converted into adenosine triphosphate or energy. So that is how rice will be converted into adenosine triphosphate or energy inside our body. Okay, so Always remember that the first carbohydrates metabolism occurs into our mouth. The second carbohydrates, or the continuation of the carbohydrates metabolism, occurs into the small intestine. It goes into the circulation. Okay, if there is a increased value or significant value of glucose into the circulation, which is termed as hyperglycemia, this will trigger the brain, particularly the hypothalamus, to control the pancreas to secrete insulin so that glucose will enter or can enter inside the cell. Now, sir, what if there are abnormalities? Like, for example, there is problem in the secretion of the insulin by means of the pancreas, okay, leading that to increased level of glucose into the circulation, leading that into a disease which is called as diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus, there is problem in the secretion of insulin, particularly the pancreas. We do have two types of diabetes mellitus, DM1 and DM2. I will further discuss it later on. Okay, so this is the whole process of how rice is being converted into adenosine triphosphate or energy by means of carbohydrates metabolism. I hope you will learn a lot, and I hope you do have later on questions and or clarifications. You can message me or you can drop me a message. Thank you and goodbye.